Good morning, everyone, and I want to thank the organization for this invitation. It's great to be here, and I'm very excited about talking about this collaboration that we've been nurturing for quite a few years now with the Northeast and all the organizations here. And actually, I was looking at the brochure of the Diagnostic Northeast, and I think we worked with about 50% of those organizations. So, yeah. So UpFront Diagnostics, we met with my other two co-founders when we were at the University of Cambridge. And back then we were a team of me coming from biomarker discovery, another co-founder that had point-of-care development expertise, and then business expertise as well. And although we are still based there in the Cambridge Biomedical campus, everyone assumes that we are based in the Northeast because we always talk about our collaboration with Newcastle and the Northeast and so on. But we are right there next to AstraZeneca in the Adam Brooks Hospital campus. So our mission is to develop innovative medical technology to reduce deaths and disability and improve the healthcare of people of the future. And the way that we do that is that we focus now on stroke, and we focus in particular on one subtype of ischemic stroke called large vessel occlusion, or LVO. The reason why we focus on this type of stroke is that although it represents about 1/5 of the suspected stroke population, it contributes to almost 60% of the deaths and disabilities, £45,000 spent in the first year of care of these patients and 24,000 in the years after. So it's a very big problem, and it's obvious that whatever we can do to improve the healthcare of LVO patients, we are going to improve these outcomes. Now, on the good side of the news is that there is a fantastic treatment called endovascular thrombectomy that is specific only for LVO stroke. It's an endovascular procedure that mechanically extracts and removes the clot from the arteries. But the problem is that, as with everything else in stroke, we need to administer this treatment as fast as possible. The longer we wait, the lower the chances of good outcome after the procedure. So this is all good, but here comes the real problem on the territory, is that the thrombectomy is a highly specialized procedure, and it's only available in tertiary regional hospitals. So what happens to most patients everywhere in the world and also in this country is that patients are picked up by ambulance, they are driven to a local hospital where they are diagnosed, and then a secondary transfer via ambulance usually is called to transfer the patient to a thrombectomy provider for them to access the treatment. As you can imagine, this is a very lengthy and inefficient process that leads to treatment delays and higher disabilities. So what we know and what we are also proposing is that when patients are detected in the pre-hospital and they are directly admitted to the right hospital, then we can save a lot of time to treatment, improve outcomes, and so on. To give you an idea of what the situation is in England, this is a poster presented at the UK Stroke Forum by Chris and Lisa last year. And as you can see here in the map, the red areas are the catchment areas of the hospital where the patients get directly admitted to a thrombectomy hospital. So as you can see, most of the country actually goes through inefficient pathway. Okay. And what they have shown is that if you are outside of the red areas, you are twice less likely to get even treated with this fantastic treatment. Okay. So this is a big problem. No new centers are planned because of high costs. So it is clear that no improvement is really likely to happen unless we make what happens outside of the hospital more efficient. Okay? So this is where we started now 7 years ago. And we wanted to find blood biomarkers that we could combine with stroke symptoms to develop a point-of-care test to identify these patients in the ambulance. So we started here with a great collaboration with the Newcastle RVI, the NIHR Newcastle MIC, and the Newcastle University Stroke Research Group. And we recruited 2 separate cohorts here at the RVI. We performed a biomarker screening in the first cohort of 150 patients, and we found that these 2 biomarkers blood biomarkers, GFAP and D-dimer, were significantly different and composed the best panel that we could put together to detect LVO. We built a clinical decision rule combining the biomarkers with clinical symptoms that are routinely collected by ambulance staff. And then we went and validated that clinical decision rule on a second validation cohort. And here you can see the performance. We obtained 98% specificity and 83% sensitivity, which was great. We published that study, and that was all good. I just want to stop here for a second and I just want to highlight the very important factor here was to go and talk to our collaborators and ask them, okay, what is the clinical problem that you want to solve? We have this technology, we have these ideas, how can we combine together? And this is really how we got to this stage. So I should have started the talk by this collaboration. We then went on the other side of the pond and we performed a biomarker validation study. In Florida, we recruited 200 plus patients, and again, biomarkers are significantly increased as expected, and the diagnostic performance is maintained. So we were very happy at this point. The paper is just being accepted last week for publication. So here, at this point, we had a validated panel of blood biomarkers. Okay, so where we go next? And here the timing could have not been better, because in that year, the SBRI published a stroke-specific funding call, essentially really directing the calls towards pre-hospital detection. So we sort of combined together with our existing collaborators and others. So we had Newcastle University Stroke Research Group, the NIAS, the ambulance service from here, the MIC, the Health Innovation for Northeastern Northumbria, and Northumbria University. And we put together an application with the aims of developing in phase 1 a prototype for the measurement of the biomarkers, and then in phase 2, the scaling up to manufacturing and the clinical validation of the test. We put together a decent application, so we got it, and that was it. This is the phase 1 of this project was the development of the prototype that we did in the first half of 2022. The prototype is called LV1 and is a 2 lateral flow test kits, one for GFAP, one for D-dimer. It works with capillary blood from finger stick, like a glucose blood test, and it provides results in less than 15 minutes. We really collaborated closely with the partners to perform very early on, even before starting the design of the test, patient and public engagement, as well as user engagement, which were fundamental and actually guided us in the development of the first prototype. We also validated the test in patient samples in the lab. This is a it's a patient sample validation, so it's not really a clinical validation, but it really shows you that the test can work when combined with fast symptoms. The rationale of the test is that when the ambulance is dispatched, arrives to the patient's home, paramedics perform the FAST score, and if the patient scores positive for the FAST symptoms, then the LV1 is immediately performed. While the results of the LV1 develop within 15 minutes, then other observations such as blood glucose and blood pressure can be collected. The patient can start to be moved from the home to the ambulance, and then at that point, the results should be ready and for a joint decision with the stroke team at the hospital to be made on where to transfer that patient. This was the end of the phase 1 of SBRI funding. We then also received funding for the phase 2, which was a much larger £1 million funding for 12 months of project, where we focused on mainly 4 areas: quality assurance and regulatory affairs, scale-up manufacturing, clinical validation, and health economics and value proposition. So I'll quickly go through this. So we built up a quality management system complying with ISO 13485. We received the certification last year in December, and then we also prepared a regulatory strategy for the 3 main markets that we're going to target. We performed the whole of, this is a very complicated slide, I don't expect you to see everything, but it's a lot of stuff that we had to go through and phases, quite codified phases on how to transfer effectively to manufacturing and how to validate the manufacturing process according to the ISO standards. And anyway, at the end of this process, we now have a validated manufacturing process with a subcontractor based in New York. We made around 20,000 tests, and as you can see there, he's very happy with the first batch of the test that came out in August last year. Once we had the validated tests, we performed all sorts of analytical performance studies. I'm not going to go into the details here, but we performed the classic precision, specificity, and other studies according to CLSI guidelines. And I want to highlight here that we are now still running one of these studies, a matrix comparison study with the Northeast Innovation Lab that should start in the next couple of weeks, maybe. And well, this is one of the main outcomes of the phase 2 of the SBRI funding. We have, together with Newcastle University Stroke Research Group and the Newcastle MIC, we've organized and started last year a large clinical study for the validation of the test in the emergency department of 6 hospitals, of which 4 are here in the Northeast. 1 is in London and 1 is in the Midlands. We are planning to recruit around 550 patients. We are about just over 400 now, so we're getting there. And the objective, of course, is to validate the diagnostic accuracy of our test in prospective patients against the reference standard brain imaging for LVO diagnosis. We have also worked very closely for the last 15 months with the MIC to develop a health economics evaluation and model. So we started by building a quite comprehensive stroke care pathway decision tree that you can see here. And we included all sorts of data, including test performance, NHS costing, and other literature data to make it as real as possible. And we will, this is a still ongoing process. We will perform a early economic model and budget impact analysis, especially when we have the final data from the clinical study, so that then we can present it to commissioners and for adoption. We've also performed a very comprehensive patient and public involvement work that really started early on, as I said earlier, during the design and the development, and still continuing to this day, where we keep updating different panels, always from the Northeast, of patient and carers. We started from the design, the test format, then we went on with the sort of clinical study design, and now we keep updating them on the clinical study results. And we will keep doing that because it's a very important piece of work. Last but not least, very much not least, our great collaboration with the Health Innovation for Northeast and North Cumbria. We've been working with them since 2022 to the development of a value proposition document, and eventually this will become a business case document that we present with commissioners. They've helped us greatly with presentations to introductions to commissioners and understanding all what concerns reimbursement strategy and commissioning and NHS adoption. So thanks for that. Okay, final thoughts. I think that it was very, very important, and maybe a point of differentiation for us was the very early engagement with clinical stakeholders and collaborators. And also, I want to just remark that the public-private collaboration, at least in our case, was fundamental to gain access to multidisciplinary expertise that otherwise, as a small startup, is very hard and costly. Obtain funding, because really, like, large groups of collaborators just gain more traction. And then, of course, validation of the concept and the technology. Thank you. Thanks for listening, and ready to take any questions.
Thank you very much for that, Edoardo. I think that's a brilliant example of collaboration between UpFront and a number of the different elements of Diagnostics Northeast. It really demonstrates the power that is achievable through these sort of collaborations. It's interesting that week before last I was involved in a number of conversations that are ongoing at a national level about exactly how we make this remarkable technology of mechanical thrombectomy available to the most the largest group of eligible patients. And as Edoardo points out, one of the real challenges is making sure that we're able to rapidly direct patients to the appropriate centre. So this has some fantastic potential. Any questions for Edoardo? Yes.
Yeah, I was wondering, because you're looking at for elevated levels of biomarkers rather than a presence-absence, how you sort of assess that on a LFT test?
Thanks for the question. So one of the tests is semi-quantitative. The D-dimer test is semi-quantitative, so different levels of intensity of the test line are linearly associated with different concentrations. And we provide, at the moment the test is just a visual reading, we provide an external scorecard with different grading. It's very similar to a colorimetric test to quantify, read the levels of the dimer, and we have a threshold on the colorimetric scale. The other test for GFAP is a qualitative test. So we have established our cutoff concentration, which is about 200 picogram per ml, and the test becomes positive only above that.
Thanks.
Other questions for Edoardo? Yep, right up at the back.
Thank you so much, Edoardo. It was fantastic to see how you have utilized the support for health innovation networks, NIHR and NHS, and also patient and public involvement. But we had a quick chat last night, and I really wanted for you to share your experience, because you are one of the 8 IDAP companies. And how do you think this is going to benefit your future development in terms of company growth?
Thank you. Yes, I didn't put it on the slides because it was too much information. But yes, we were very lucky to be selected among the 8 companies in this pilot program for market access called IDAP, Innovative Device Access Program, which is organized by NICE, MHRA, and the NHS. And the program essentially is aims at developing a target development profile together with the company and the regulators and NICE, and they're basically going to tell us, okay, we want your test to do X, Y, and Z. Go and do it, and then if you come back to us, we'll tell you how you should validate this test with a interventional clinical trial, and then if all goes well, we'll take you on. This is the nutshell. So we are very lucky because we get access to incredible experts from the MHRA and NICE especially, and we're gonna be enrolled into 2 meetings where we will really narrow down on the scientific questions and the evidence gap for market adoption, and then on the market adoption strategy.
Okay, in which case, thank you very much indeed, Edoardo.
Thank you.
Thank you.